Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity. I'm Dr. Mansur Hasib, and today I have the great pleasure of bringing my very good friend, Rima Aristocrat, President and CEO of the amazing historic Willis College of Canada. Rima.
Good evening, Dr. Hasib. Good evening, everybody, Karen, Eric, Tammy, and everybody else who's watching this show tonight. First of all, I have to say congratulations, Dr. Hasib. You have been providing those conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity at the most important time of our lives right now. This pandemic has really distracted everything and everybody. And people looking for something human, something that bringing together, any reason to get together, share the thoughts, share the good and bad and wonderfuls. And you have been doing this. And for that, I thank you. Also, thank you for inviting me tonight. Yes, I am Rima Aristocrat. I've been the president of Willis College for the last 31 years. Willis is a 156 years old college, and we are a private career college approved by the Ministry of Colleges and Universities. But our mission, our aim to provide industry-led, job-ready skills training at the time that relevant for adults. We have provided many Canada's top talents in business, in health, in cybersecurity and technology, but never ever I have been so excited that time that we started cybersecurity programs. I found that other organizations like a TechnoWave, a veteran-friendly transition program, worked with a women in cybersecurity, worked with women in healthcare, and many other areas. But never has been time that anything and anybody brought me to tears. Last week, I attended and I was a part of the Cybersecurity Diva Forum. And I have to tell you, I had the tears in my eyes.
Oh my God.
We have been killing ourselves, not only Willis and not only Canada, but worldwide. What can we do to make sure that we somehow give a light to cybersecurity, that it's not dark, it's not scary, it's friendly, it's fun. And you have achieved last week with your cyber divas. That also brought me to your missions, the bringing inner creativity out, personal branding, the cybersecurity leadership. So I don't think has ever been time more important than now, importance of the leadership.
No, that is true.
I would like to talk a little bit about importance of the leadership in education, especially with times of the pandemic.
Sure.
Global crises are the mother of the invention. With every disaster comes something.
Yes.
I have read this in your book, Dr. Hasib, in the cybersecurity leadership book. I've seen you on a stage demonstrating. I have watched your videos that you are actually bringing out. But sometimes it takes an incident to give you aha moment. And last week for me was an aha moment, how you led those ladies, your cyber divas, to the point that it was historic moment of the rapping and the fun and the entertainment. And it was just, we could not, even after the show was over, we could not stop talking about it and sharing our ideas. In fact, I have been using that model and sharing already for a whole week with the worldwide everybody. So, as you know, my cybersecurity, the technical knowledge is very limited. I'm not very technical. Things that I know about the cybersecurity is from you. It's your leadership. You are my mentor. And there has been some areas that you have been encouraging me the past 2 years, like Go online, Rima.
Yeah, online.
Don't just depend on the in-classroom training. And I said,
Right.
yeah, we will. But it took pandemics to make us to move faster. When it struck, pandemic happened in March, we had a March break, so students were on break. Now, realizing that my students are adults, they're not kids, so they have a responsibility to their families. We, and educators, have a big responsibility. We are talking about the people's lives, making sure that they have the skills so they can find the careers and the right careers and support their families. So 48% of the Canadians were not ready, technically ready to how do they react. And they didn't realize the cost will be associated with the pandemic. So they were scrambling, they are confused, they didn't know what to do. Universities going, by the time decided to, I think we have to move our studies online. Some of them still not online, it's been 4 months now. So we had the 1 week. The good thing about the private colleges is we don't have a luxury of the think about it. Move it.
You can
do it or you die. Do it, die. So we immediately got together, entire team, and said we have 1 week to move entire healthcare, business, and technology on the online. But the importance of the leadership came very important at that time, because all of us were confused. We didn't know what to expect. We were scared. We didn't know how to go out. We didn't know what we're gonna hear about our families, we're gonna lose. So we decided what we're gonna do is use a Zoom very wisely, and have a staff meetings. Started with it twice a week, so we can share out the ideas. We can ask how are you doing? Are you okay? Making sure that we celebrate the choices. And remind them, all of them, we are there in together. All of us are together in it. We make it or we don't make it, but we are together. And that thoughtfulness paid a big dividends in our success. People realize that, you know what, nothing else is important. It's important to be kind.
And people. This is the thing. Most businesses, organizations, this has been the biggest reason that I even came to academia, because I was so frustrated in corporate America for 30 years. And I'm like, these people don't understand business. The way they're treating people with all these layoffs, right and left, no innovation, no loyalty, no allegiance, and this is no way to run a modern company. The modern company, the human brain is the fountain of innovation, and so leadership, which inspires innovation, has to be there. Absolutely. So you talked about the divas, and I'm so thankful that you mentioned that. Notice that what happened there was that I helped each of those people find the inner greatness that they already had. See, the problem with society and our traditional form of education is that we are educating to an average, okay? We're educating to a curve. I have seen professors say, oh, no more than 25% of my students will get A's. And I'm thinking, how do you ever determine that? In my classes, my goal is to give every student an A. And it is my job to get that student there. And each student will require different levels of care and feeding because they are different. No two students are the same. And no two human beings are the same.
It's such an evidence in your graduates speaking about you. Whether it is the Divas Forum, any other, even Eric is going to be speaking probably a little bit about you. What made the difference was not a course curricula. It was not a university. It was an individual, you, who they felt that you cared for them. You brought their inner creativity to create their personal branding. You encouraged them to be yourself. And that's exactly, that was evidence last week. If you guys have not watched the Cyber Diva, you've got to watch it. I'm telling you, it's just most amazing thing that I have ever seen.
Yes, I saw what each person had.
I was here with you, so I totally enjoyed it. It was
Yes,
awesome.
you were there. Hello.
And I
Hi,
heard
Linda.
them bring it out. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Linda, you remember I said that I had the tears in my eyes, but somebody else said the same thing, that they had the tears in their eyes. So, leadership and the people, everything else, so not the technology. Who created technology? Humans do. You know, technology is as good as in unplug and plug, but we humans have a heart and soul and the mind and the thoughtfulness and the kindness. And that pandemic somehow brought this beautiful thing that we forgot, to be kind.
In some ways, it has accelerated the
Yes.
need for different kinds of thinking, because part of the problem with academia, and you will see there are some key scholars who have some YouTube videos out there that have been talking about that reckoning in higher education is coming.
Yes.
Because what has happened is there has been a massive explosion of cost without benefit. All right, our incomes have not gone up. The graduates aren't making that much more money,
No.
but the cost of education has become too expensive. That's number one. Number two, the real reason for that cost isn't that we're paying professors more. No. What universities have created is this massive infrastructure of advertising, high expensive ads and everything. They're advertising on TV every day, multiple times. Wait a minute, why isn't that money being spent on education, on a scholarship or something? Don't you think that would do better for the students?
Yep.
So that has to change. So the real cost isn't from faculty salaries. The real cost is from administrator salaries and the cost of administration. It is massive.
Look what it did when we did the hero stage, both of us. You had 116 universities. You had professors. You had an entire who's who of the Philippines and the Singapores saying, Dr. Hasib, we need you. We need you to share and teach us and guide us. So more and more people are realizing and learning that what you have been doing all those years, this is the way to go. But you holding the conversation with the Dr. Cybersecurity, there are some people that don't think that they can just pick up the phone and call you, or they have a conversation with you, because you are for them right over there, above, unreachable. So you have just shown the public, anybody can have a conversation with you.
Absolutely, anybody is welcome.
And it's so beautiful.
I'm here to help anybody.
It's so wonderful. It's so beautiful.
I even did this. Sometimes a student will want to know, but I'm not an expert. Can I still come to your conversation? I said, absolutely. All kinds of people are welcome.
Even more so.
If you're not an expert or a student, you probably have excellent questions that I can probably answer for you. When someone expert comes, I may not be able to answer their questions.
That's right. That's right. So this is wonderful. I don't want to take too much time because I want to hear from the Karen and Eric and Tommy, everybody that is shared their thoughts and their ideas. But I wanted to still stress on importance of the leadership, especially with the COVID-19, importance of the leadership, anything we do in family, in a business, in education, in healthcare, anything we touch, leadership is everything. For me, you are a conductor of the most amazing symphony of the world called cybersecurity.
Well, I knew it was going to be special for you to be here, Rima, and it was certainly, you certainly warmed my heart. So thank you very much for that. And we will catch up later. And I will now bring in Karen Russell. Karen, please introduce yourself.
Dr. Hasib, thank you so much for having me on your show. I've attended a few, and it is really just opening up my mind to what either I thought cybersecurity was or what it can be. So you're really providing an amazing platform. And Rima, I really could relate and appreciate what you talked about with leadership. My background, I've about 20 years plus experience in sales and marketing. I worked for many years, 10 years in the hospitality industry and hotels, working with teams, planning meetings and strategizing on that. And then about the last 8 years or so of my sales experience working in nonprofits, working in a role of membership, and most recently was director of membership for the Central Maryland Chamber. So they had about 400 businesses. So I worked with a lot of different business owners from small to large. Again, you know, talking about different styles of leadership, different budgets, and, you know, where do you put your resources and what's going to be the most important. So I am presently looking, I'm caught up in that COVID situation. So
Okay.
I am presently looking for my next opportunity. My passion really is connecting people and looking for membership role for another nonprofit. So that is me in a nutshell.
Wow, that was a wonderful introduction. We can see how personable you are. You look like a connector of people. So business development, growing a business is what you're all about. This is amazing. So thank you very much for coming on the show, Karen. What are some questions that you might have? What are some things that we can chat about?
Yes. So since I've been, you know, in that nonprofit space, I was really curious to get your thoughts about how associations could be, or, you know, nonprofits maybe could be doing a better job in providing that platform or community for the cybersecurity industry. I know there's a few out there, but I'd really like to get your insights on maybe, you know, how they could be doing that better.
Absolutely. So a lot of it is, again, knowledge sharing, knowledge leadership. So a lot of people don't understand that pure advertisements or trying to solicit through campaigns and all of that, phone calls, it does not work. What works is show leadership through thought and the people that you're helping. So if you're a nonprofit, let us say your mission is helping youth get to jobs or something like that. Well, then featuring stories of those youth and talking about that, creating forums for other youth to come and talk to you. So think about doing similar things of what I'm doing. You see, what am I doing? Connecting with people. A job never defined me, and it should never define anybody, because you should be your brand regardless of who you work for. And who you work for should actually be glorified by your brand, not the other way around.
That's beautifully said. That's beautifully said. My next thought was, what can be done to build more trust between the cybersecurity industry and the consumer?
Excellent question also. So one of the problems with the cybersecurity industry, as in when you talk about the technology people, a lot of the technology salespeople do not understand cybersecurity. If you ask them what is cybersecurity, they will not be able to define it. Okay. And yet, they will be selling products as though that is the only product that any consumer needs to solve their problems. They don't even know that cybersecurity involves people policy first, then technology, because technology has to fit within a strategy. And if you don't have the people, you don't have a strategy, it doesn't matter. You're probably buying more technology than you might need. So this is a transition that people have to make. I've actually coached technology salespeople to rebrand and re-understand. Some of them have literally memorized my book, and I say, when you go to a sales presentation, do not go selling, go educating. So what they've done is they've taken my slides, so when I coach them, I give them slides and everything to say how you're going to explain cybersecurity. I say to them, you might even give a copy of my book as a gift with your logo and everything stuck to the book. They're not going to throw it away. Because see, the thing is that when you do marketing, that marketing cannot be short-lived, that as soon as you leave, they can throw the business card away and you're gone. Your history, right? But if you give them something of value, a simple thing like a book, 20, 25 bucks, and your business logo sticker is on there, what happens when they're not going to throw away the book, I can guarantee you that. And if they read it, all of a sudden they're going to say, oh my God, this is very interesting information. This could help me succeed, especially if they're a CIO or a CISO, right? Because that's what my book tells anybody to do, become a cybersecurity leader. The salesperson who has done this will suddenly become this person's friend. See, business is all about relationships, right? Once you build that relationship, you have the trust. Trust comes through knowing and knowing that I am not here to sell. So I have relationships with many, many people. They buy my products, they buy my services and everything, but it was never about selling, right? It was always about relationships. My job is to help them become successful. So get that. They need to see you as the person helping them succeed. Now you will be a friend for life.
And I think you answered I have two more questions, but I think you really hit the nail on the head. I think that answer would really apply to any industry, because I was going to ask more specifically about cybersecurity providing value for the hospitality industry. I know that hotels in particular are really struggling right now with travel being down. So with some of those industries that are hurting or maybe don't have the same budget, how would you speak to those types of industries with
Absolutely. This is another great question, Karen. You figure out where you want to work, the industries you want to work for. Instead of asking for jobs or looking for jobs, give them advice. Hey, I'm sure pandemic might have hit you. Is there some way I can help you become more successful during this time? Because I understand technology, I know marketing, I know how to build relationships. Perhaps I can make some introductions that could help. All of a sudden, instead of you looking for a job, you have suddenly become the bachelorette that everybody wants to marry. You see, that's where you want to be.
Oh, this is great. This is great. Okay.
Right?
And yes. And then on some of my final thoughts, when I was working at the Chamber of Commerce, there was certain information we were allowed to give out and certain information you could not. So for example, you could not give out an email address, but we did have a place on our directory, which was online, that you could, click a button to email a member, but we did give their website. We did give, their phone number. So I guess, kind of share some of your best practices on where do you draw that line between, what's private information, what's public information, and because it almost felt kind of silly because, you could just go to somebody's website and then, find out an email address.
Yeah, so the privacy is what each person wants it to be. So privacy really belongs on that individual, right? So I cannot talk about best practices here. So I'll give you a very simple example. I'm president of our Toastmasters Club. Well, over there, we actually ask our members, which fields do you want to reveal to the public? So they have the choice. See, in terms of privacy, it is always best to let each member of your constituency decide what they want to share. Our job has always been to help them understand the risks of whatever. Nowadays, you can have a Google phone, for example, where your Google phone can be public, but your real phone is private, right? So your real phone can be something else which you never reveal to somebody. But if you're really a public-facing organization and people need to reach you, the easier people can reach you, the better relationships you will have with people. Part of the reason that I have been successful is not because of me. It has been because of all the people that I've surrounded myself with and I've made myself accessible to them. So therefore, what happens? They have made themselves accessible to me. So relationship is a two-way street. It has to be nurtured and all that. So if I try to be a hermit, guess what? In this modern world, it's not going to work. So we have to teach everybody, look, we have to be out there, and guess what? People will understand. A lot of people know my phone numbers, my email address, but they really don't bother me. They're always, when they reach out, they're reaching out for some valuable conversation, something like this. They already know the forums that I have where we can chat and network and things like that. And so it's again, if you're surrounding yourself with good people, they're not going to bother you. They're going to enhance your brand. They're going to grow you. They're going to help you. So that has been my philosophy. So I would say, take some elements of that. I mean, notice I have made myself so publicly available globally. Yeah. Any harm in that? No really harm in that, because I'm educating people, and anybody can educate. See, the knowledge that you have, nobody else in the world has that knowledge. So why not share it? Your knowledge will continue to grow as you share it. It will refine, it will develop, and then other people will give you some knowledge. And all of a sudden, you have this grand community of people who are talking more about you than you are talking about yourself. I mean, Rima has done more for me globally than anybody else that I can think of. She makes these introductions every now and then. I'm like, she says, oh, you got to go talk to this Singapore people tomorrow or this Friday. I said, what? So that's what I mean. You got to surround yourself with these people and then continuously collaborate, help them succeed and all that. And before you know it, you will have that Karen Russell brand that everybody wants a piece of.
Well, I have to say, I do feel surrounded. I have Linda McBee and Dr. Tammy Erickson are here tonight, and it's because of them. We're all part of an empowered women's group that we meet weekly. And
nice.
They're the ones that told me about you and introduced me to you. And I want to give a big shout out to both of them. So we've got
wonderful. Yeah, they're regulars. So you see again, that's what I was talking about.
Rima does the same thing for you. It's about just giving and connecting and allowing it to kind of explode where it may.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it does.
Right.
So it's nothing more than what you've preached that everyone else has picked up on, right?
It's not difficult to do this when you have a material like the Dr. Hasib. What's there to? It's so easy. I mean, everybody wants him. Whole world wants him. So we are very grateful and very fortunate to have him in our life globally.
So Rima, where are you? I'll ask questions later. I'm sorry.
What's your next question, Karen?
I mean, I'm good. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I'm gonna keep listening. But I really appreciate everything that you're sharing, and it's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. So nice to know you, Karen. I am now going to bring in one of my former students who was my early student, because this is where I developed that entire brand of competency-based learning. So Eric Chapman, introduce yourself.
All right, good evening, good morning to our international folks who may be watching here. My name is Eric Chapman. I am the founder and CEO of Risk Alleviators Technologies. We are a small cybersecurity consulting firm where we primarily focus on compliance, governance, and also vulnerability management, which includes vulnerability scanning and vulnerability analysis. I started my career 15 years ago. I've been in the technology field for 15 years, which spans amongst not only government, and we talk about high value assets in accordance to the Department of Homeland Security, but also talking about healthcare and hospitality. So I've had a wide breadth of experience there. Dr. Hasib talked about me taking a part of one of his former classes. I graduated from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, aka UMBC, with a master's degree in cybersecurity. I had the distinct honor to be in class Cyber 658, which was risk analysis and compliance. So Dr. Hasib was an extraordinary asset, and not only within that class, but even going forward. And that's one of the things that I will always take away from Dr. Hasib. It really wasn't just about the course material. It was also about the actual soft skills too. And when you think about not only being a cybersecurity professional, but also being a cybersecurity leader, there are those intangibles that really separate you from the pack, right? And I'm going to talk about that later. But throughout COVID-19, I really had to ask myself, how can I become more valuable to the cybersecurity community? Now, prior, I have taken it upon myself to do mentoring. And while I had the ability to mentor some phenomenal individuals, I really took it upon myself this time to say, look, I really need to really reach out and really be able to spread some of the knowledge that I have to help the next person, whether that is to find a cybersecurity degree program that's effective, or to be able to get into the cybersecurity realm. Because based on my previous experience and history, I had issues with both. And really being able to spread the knowledge and really be able to help someone to be able to make their path easier was absolutely key. So I am beyond grateful, and I am beyond blessed to be able to do that. So with that being said, I mean, we can go and get started.
Absolutely. No, that was an amazing introduction, because see, this is one of the deals that that I've always had with my students. When I mentor you, at some point in your life, you got to mentor at least 10 other people. And I know that that fire was already in your belly when we met, and you have certainly carried on. And so we have had an amazing relationship even after your graduation. So thank you very much, Eric. What things we want to talk about?
So I actually want to branch off of Rima's point earlier and talking about leadership, but I actually want to go into ethical leadership. Now, I want to branch into your book, Cybersecurity Leadership. And I want to start within the very beginning of the book, where you brought an example of September 11th. And you talked about the late Jim Parker, who was the former CEO of Southwest. And at that time, his board and himself had to make an ethical decision of what to do with their employees and what to do with their customers, right? Now, the parallel that I have seen personally is with COVID-19. I have seen companies who we've seen who could be doing something lawfully, but in the grand scheme of things, may not necessarily be doing the right thing, right? How do you feel that ethical leadership is going to play a part in the aftermath of COVID-19?
Ethical leadership is going to make the difference between companies staying afloat and not staying afloat. Because what's happening with unethical leadership is that some of the executives of a company may be making the money. So a lot of the companies that got, say, the COVID relief funds, well, many of them are pocketing that, not really hiring people, and sometimes they're not calling it a layoff. Instead, they're calling it a furlough, all right? But in effect, it's a layoff, but they're calling it a furlough by using this games and terminology. They're really depriving not only their company, but also the economy, the key ingredient that it needs, which is consumption and spending by people, employment by people. So, I mean, without ethical leadership, we can never run successful capitalist economies, democracies, or anything. So that is why, if you remember, even in my classes that you attended, I stressed that ethical leadership because I felt like that was the foundation of capitalism. That was the foundation of democracy. And that is part of the reason why America has been successful for so many years, where other countries did not, because other countries, I have seen many of them, don't have ethical leadership. 1 to 2% of the people make all the money, and the rest don't. So therefore, what happens? They're actually suppressing the growth of the country, the growth of the economies. And now, United States is about there. Right now, 1 to 2% of the people make the money. The rest of the people are at subsistence levels, and they're going out in the street every time an issue hits. That should never be the case.
Right.
Home ownership in America has declined over the last 16, 20 years.
Absolutely.
That's insane.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. So I want to go to the next thing, and I want to really commend Rima and Karen, and of course yourself for this. Public speaking, right? Now, I have seen this not only through COVID-19 with a lot of web seminars and other web avenues, right? But I've also seen this publicly even before, where one of the things that I believe a strong leader, whether it's cybersecurity or whatever field, their ability to be able to speak and communicate to the audience. And I hear a lot of people when they speak, every other point, it's ums and so's and not really being able to confidently communicate their point, right? Now, for a lot of aspiring cybersecurity leaders, we look at intangibles, right? Just how I mentioned in the introduction. What is your advice to aspiring or even current cybersecurity leaders on how they can effectively improve their public speaking?
Toastmasters is it. That's where I got my start. I was a member from 1991 to 1994 when I was a young professional at the Calvert Cliffs nuclear power plant, okay? And it was free. This is what all the future executives of the company needed to do. So that's where they sent me. I went there, and it was a mind-blowing experience. That's where I got rid of the you know. Because as you just mentioned, anytime a speaker has those speaking defects, it's like a singer going off tune every line, right? So professional singers going off tune every line would never develop a huge fan base. So similarly, public speakers that have defects in their speech, the more the defects, the less credible they appear. If I say the same sentence with no you know, that means I'm confident. I'm confident in what I'm saying. Therefore, I'm more believable, credible. And instead of saying when I pause, that particular pause has a huge impact because the audience now anticipates what I'm going to say next instead of their brain trying to filter out all those speech defects that I have. So it's a trained skill and it must be done. If you remember, Eric, I gave you extra points for never saying an during your entire 10-minute presentation or half an hour presentation. And I think you were one of the only 2 students that ever got that extra point.
Absolutely.
I remember you from that.
Absolutely.
Weren't you one of the students that did that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
See?
And that is the thing that I really took away. One of the things I took away from that class. And when I look at prior professors, and this is speaking for 2 undergraduate degrees and a graduate degree, there was not one professor that I can remember that talked about the effects of public speaking and really being able to effectively communicate your message. And for mainly cybersecurity, right? And we look at the technical and we look at the business aspect of it. When you're looking to communicate your point to senior leaders or the board or CEO and CISO, whoever, you have to go on with the understanding that you maybe have one shot to effectively communicate your message. As the cybersecurity advisor for the organization or even your own company. So that was one of the things that I really took to heart to be able to improve. Even when starting my own company, I said, look, if I'm going to represent myself in this company as really being something reputable, I really have to nail this. I mean, so that was definitely a key thing I took away from class.
Yes, and if you remember, part of the thing was each of you taught a portion of the class. Remember that entire course, you took 658. I had completely redesigned the course so that it would be a student-taught class. If you remember, I gave only 1 or 2 lectures in the beginning to set the context and the tone, develop the work, and then all of you as panels taught the entire class. And if you remember, you were bringing in games and music, cartoons. So Rima, that is how this whole began. That was my first experiment that I made the students bring in humor, bring in fun, games into the class to really have fun at learning. And so notice that he has graduated, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago? I don't even remember when you were there, 2013, 14, something like that?
I graduated 2016, so I was
16. Okay, so look, here we are so many years later, he still remembers that particular class because of the fun he had and the fun that I had.
Exactly. So let's go into the next point, and this actually branches into what we just talked about. Now I want to talk about prospective students, and just a little background about myself. For undergrad, one of the frustrations that I had was that I personally, and other students personally, did not feel we received the quality education within, when we talk about cybersecurity, or even at that time, information security.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking and I see plenty of students who are really gauging cybersecurity and really want to learn more. You've mentioned before within your prior conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity that if someone wants to really learn about cybersecurity and get an understanding, they can look at chapter 1 of your cybersecurity leadership book on your website for free, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's say someone did that, right? They said, okay, I have a foundational understanding of what cybersecurity is. Now I'm ready to go into a undergrad or graduate degree program focused in cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. What are the key pillars that a prospective student should look for when they pick a cybersecurity degree program?
Excellent question. So this is why I've always said, once they understand the model from that chapter 1, they should be able to vet a program, because a program cannot be a bunch of just courses put together. What is the philosophy of the program? The student needs to ask the program chairs, program leaders, what model of cybersecurity are you teaching in here? What are you covering? Are you covering people, policy, and technology, or you're just covering technology, or are you just covering policy? What are you covering? If they cannot answer these questions, chances are they don't know cybersecurity either. They just put a bunch of courses together, and this is part of the problem. They also need to vet the program leaders and the professors. Are you learning from somebody with a PhD in English? You need to find out what is that person's degree in. Absolutely. Very important.
Absolutely.
So the model is important. So my programs the programs that I have developed, it is built around the model. It covers all of those things. That is why you saw public speaking. So UMBC was my small experiment. I did the grand experiment at UMUC, where I was actually program chair, and I was able to do this at a global scale with 5,000 students. So I inherited the program. I changed it so that it won Best Cybersecurity Higher Education Program in the USA Award for 2 years in a row. That has never happened to any university.
Excellent. Fantastic. And I think we have time for one more thing, and then I'll close here. Now, I want to talk about personal branding. And I want to talk about personal branding actually from the perspective of a CEO. And it's really difficult because you want to brand and market your company, right? You have your key capabilities and services or products that you provide, right? Mm-hmm. Now, from the perspective of a cybersecurity leader, right, and reaching out to individuals or companies and being able to provide your assistance, you want to be able to really brand that as well. Hey, I am a effective mentor or leader, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not necessarily sure if by trying to brand yourself, you know, as that cybersecurity leader, if that will have an impact on your company's image, right? Because
it actually will.
It actually will. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you are the brand.
Yep.
The CEO is the brand. If you think about my program, I was the brand. Okay? Because when I spoke, it created credibility. Then the students wanted to learn from me, and they knew that I would set the tone, because see, the CEO sets the tone for that entire organization. Mm-hmm. So if you can exude that credibility, that authenticity, that humanity, that you actually are a person of emotions, and you want to build relationships with your clients and truly take care of them. Remember, your clients are going to come to you not because you're the cheapest person in town or the cheapest company in town. You never want to compete on price. That is a losing proposition. You want to compete on what is called value.
Absolutely.
Value means I am giving you so much service and all these other things in the packaging. Think about even cookies, right?
Mhm.
You put it in a nice, beautiful tin can, wrap it up and all that. What happens? The perception of value goes up and you can charge more money for it. And that is what you want to have with every customer. Your clients, your customers will never go to anybody if you can give them more value than what they're paying for. And that is in the perception of their mind. That is sales 101,
Absolutely.
right? Because the same product could be sold at multiple prices. I was never the cheapest guy in town, and I'm still not.
Absolutely. Because you understand your value.
I understand my value, and I'm going to give you that value. No client of mine. If you remember, one of the things that I even probably told you at that time, that I will be the best professor you will ever experience in your past, present, and future.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means I'm going to try to give you so much value that you will never get it. And that is 100% in my control. Giving you that value is 100% in my control. And so as CEO, that is also in your control to give the client that level of satisfaction that they will never dream of going to anybody else. So they'll never even know if there's a cheaper person around.
Absolutely.
That is where your brand needs to be. Brand needs to be Eric Chapman. My God, if you want this kind of a service, that's the person, Eric Chapman. And you actually have a beautiful name for that too. Eric Chapman is a great branding name.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, Dr. C, thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Always a pleasure to see you. So I'm going to now stop the recording, and then we will be able to